Ever played Pathologic 2? Wrong question. You see, you don't play Pathologic 2, you experience it. Because it's not really a game. And because it's never quite clear who's playing whom. Nobody plays Pathologic 2. So, have you participated in Pathologic 2? I have a very strange relationship with this game. Those isn't, you might ask, but mine's a slightly different story. I orbited this game for years, one moment ready to dive in, the next showing it back onto the shelf. I'm not going to retell the plot because recapping Pathologic 2 is nearly impossible. You can talk about it for hours, the lore, the symbolism, what drives the characters, how the city works. But I'm interested in something else. Why does this game feel like a lived experience? The game has a fascinating reputation. People become obsessed with it, but most never dare to begin. Maybe because it's punishing on every level at once. Maybe because it's tingled. Or because it will hurt you. And all of that is true. The decision to start this game is already a test. The first and far from the last. And if you haven't taken that plunge yet, here's the fair warning. It will be hard, unbearably hard. Sometimes you won't see a way out. But here's the strange part. Even if you don't like it, at the end you'll say thank you, even if you can't fully explain why. And if you're ready to go for that, one very strange thing awaits you. There is a small chance that somewhere amid all this nightmare, you'll suddenly catch yourself thinking, God, I'm actually enjoying this.
To climb out of the pot, you'll have to burn your hands.
It all starts on a stage. Because Pathologic 2 isn't a game, it's a play, a theatrical play. And the theatricality here isn't a metaphor. In fact, we are literally standing on a stage next to the director, who tells us plainly that everything happening is a performance. In form, the game is split into acts with prologues. And in language, the characters don't speak like real people, they speak like actors in a play. Pathologic 2 is a play staged not in a theater, but in code. Yet the laws of theater still hold. As in any good production, an actor can turn to the audience and speak to them on behalf of the author, breaking the fourth wall. We'll see these breaks throughout the entire gameplay. Instead of a city sets, they look real but sometimes phantasmagoric, elaborate, occasionally impossible, and sometimes, on the contrary, dull and identical, like backdrops on the stage. Everything is too exaggerated, pretentious, and too theatrical. And now, your cue. You're on stage, it's already happening. Before us, the echoes of the previous play, staged years earlier. It went badly, the audience didn't like it. The director admits this and offers to redo the production. This is an addition. You are the actor who must play a very important role. Now, you are Artemi Burak. And you, nothing less than, must save an entire city from the plague. Pathologic 2 literally reflects on the first game. On the game that was too heavy, too strange, too uncomfortable for most players. Last time the performance failed. The developers know this and are given a second chance. To the players and to themselves. You are on the street, day 12. Everything has already happened. The plague has consumed the city, soldiers are killing civilians. Everything is burning, women are weeping. Everything was decided for you. You're too late, this is the end. But the theater gives you another chance. This ending isn't a spoiler, it's a warning. Now that you know how it can end, the performance gets another take. You have to do it right. You have to save the city. It's a difficult role. Will you manage? Let's start over. Day 1. Here are the details. Your father, also a doctor, died suddenly shortly before your arrival. The locals are hostile. The city doesn't recognize you. Only a few years have passed, but even the people closest to you have become strangers. They resent you for leaving, for returning, and for not being there when you were needed. From day one, life is hard. They want to take your house, you've lost everyone close to you, you have no purpose, and on top of that, you're accused of murdering your father. A bit much with drama, don't you think? Ladies and gentlemen, we identified the genre. This is a tragedy. But not Shakespeare, not Molière. This is a Russian play, which means it's going to hurt. Pathologic 2 was made by a Russian studio, and it doesn't merely borrow Russian atmosphere or aesthetics. It borrows the entire grammar of Russian literature, its rhythm, its weight. You know this story, even if you never read a page of Russian classics. A young physician arrives in a provincial town. He's met with alienation, filth, helplessness, the pain of others, and the sensation that the whole world is slowly disintegrating before his eyes. This is Dostoevsky's moral pressure cooker, Chekhov's suffocating provincial town, Bulgakov's plague city where rational medicine and ancient mysticism share a room. Pathologic 2 takes their backbone, the conviction that suffering is not a complication of the story, but the engine of it. Not because the developers are cruel, not because difficulty equals depth. We all played games that prove the opposite. But because in Russian literature, pain isn't decoration, pain is the method. A way to convey the story's moral, to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. If you're hurting, you're feeling. You're living, you're learning. Pathologic 2 translates that principle into mechanics. It doesn't tell you about helplessness, it makes you helpless. It doesn't explain the value of time, it makes you late. It doesn't say resources are scarce, it leaves you hungry in the dead of night with no money and no medicine. Suffering isn't the most pleasant teacher, but it is the most productive. The game isn't trying to break you, it's trying to teach you something. And it has decided, entirely deliberately, that this is the only way you'll truly listen.
Time is slipping through our fingers. We must act now.
You know what sound in Pathologic 2 scares the most? Not this. Not this. Not even this. The most terrifying noise is this. Pathologic 2's genre is horror, but without jump scares or monsters. Monsters frighten you for a couple of hours. Then you grow accustomed and separate the screen from reality. But the feeling that you're too late, that time only marches forward, that's no fantasy. Missing an opportunity, a chance, fucking up something important and precious because you were foolish, didn't push hard enough, or simply ran out of time, that's an adult dread. The dread of someone who suddenly realizes how swiftly everything slips away. And to make sure that fear doesn't stay a metaphor, the game attaches a mechanic to it, a catastrophe mechanic. The first thing you encounter when you start, bars. We have health, hunger, thirst, exhaustion, immunity, and stamina. All need to be replenished and maintained, and they all interlocked. Run too long, you deplete water. Skip sleep, lose health. Decide to sleep, lose time. Already strained? No, we only scratch the surface. On top of that, external variables can flip the entire gameplay upside down. Food and items can double or triple in price overnight. Water gradually vanishes from the streets. The plague suddenly sizes a district and now you need a detour. Sprint if you have a water bottle? Pop pills and walk? Go around and burn time? But what if there's no water later? What if those pills were meant for the person you rush into? And so on endlessly. One thing pulls another. You run, you scramble, you panic, and then... you're late. And now you stare at the death counter, watching the clock claim another handful of people, realizing you didn't mess up just now. Not at the start of the day, but somewhere back on a day 2 when you didn't buy those lousy boots while they were cheap. Which is why you now avoid red zones and make huge detours. burning water, food, and time. Loading an old save is pointless. You have to keep playing. Drag the whole heap of bad decisions and learned lessons on your back. Adapt again, shift again, fight and find alternatives. For example, at some point I realized I urgently needed to stockpile food. My inventory was full of bracelets, watches, various trinkets, and I knew things would only get worse. So I thought, I'll just buy a ton of food, stash it in a cabinet, and take what I need for the rest of the game. Solved hunger problem forever, I figured. I sold everything I had, pocketed the cash, and went to sleep. And the next day, ration cards were introduced. All my money turned into a pumpkin while Haruspex slept. And you know what? My first thought was, of course. Oh my god, of course they introduced ration cards. That's literally the first thing that happens during a shortage. See, if I had done nothing, I'd have been better off. What happens when the only supply road for food and water breaks down? Shortages. What happens when oversight committees arrive to restore order? Ration cards. What happens in a city torn apart by plague? Marauders. You're constantly on edge. Your brain works non-stop. You think, anticipate, try to act ahead. Constantly hard. Sounds like I just described post-apocalyptic survival, right? No. I described an ordinary day for someone with no money. Someone who has to constantly figure out how to feed themselves. Micromanage daily chores, pay the bills, and just keep going. When I stepped into the Town-on-Gorkhon at night and tried to read a stranger's silhouette, friend or frat, it reminded me of every real-life walk home in the dark. We ordinary people, just like in real life. Moreover, we're as much as NPC as everyone else in this city. We're not different from them. Why should the rules be any different for us? We're in a performance, remember? And the Haruspex only superpower, his sole distinction from other residents, is that Artemi is currently controlled by you. The only advantage Artemi has in this hell is you, your wits, your ability to adapt, predict, not give up, make choices. Make choices. Another trick of Pathologic too, because we're used to choice being active, especially in games. Standing at the crossroads before making a decision, you do one action over another, this or that, an act of doing. Pathologic 2 puts you in a situation where your action can only make things worse. You can infect an entire district or a single person, endanger yourself or someone else. For example, Lara, our childhood friend, asks us to bring a barrel of water to the shelter. A good quest, highly moral. Except if we simply deliver that water, by morning the whole district will be consumed by plague. Because the water turns out to be infected. And if we decide to check the water and report it to Donkovsky, we just lose time. Because that same barrel of water won't magically become safe. It'll just be taken away. So we've spent several endgames hours on a quest and ended up with the same result as if we'd never done it at all. We failed the mission, not because we did it badly, but because we took it in the first place. In moments like this, the only right way is not to do something. And to deliberately not do something, that also requires a choice, an active choice of an action. You no longer have the alibi, I didn't have time. You only have, I decided I wouldn't do this. The developers joked at press conferences that iSpeak games have no such things as gameplay. That's half joke. There is a gameplay, just not the kind you used to. To finish Pathologic 2, you don't need shooting skills or perfect quick-time reflexes. Reaction speed doesn't matter. You need to see cause and effect, set priorities, and take responsibility for your decisions. This game doesn't treat you as a player. It treats you as an adult.
It's a disgrace to be illiterate. One must learn to read the signs of fate.
Almost every game has a soft boundary. Don't do this, or it'll get worse. Don't go there, don't kill those people, don't commit evil acts. The player typically has 3 options. 1. Stay clear of trouble. Play carefully. 2. poke at the edges, deviate a little. I'll do this, but then I'll fix it. And 3, deliberately go where you shouldn't and go all the way. We all wanted to see what happens if you unleash your inner demon in Vampire the Masquerade. What if you let the whole city to be infected in Dishonored? We know it'll be harder, but we're curious how much harder. What does Pathologic 2 do? It says, here's your reputation in each district. If you want to survive, don't anger people. Don't let it drop. This world has its own rules. You must follow them. And to drive the point home, the game immediately throws you into a city that despises you from day one. You can't have a normal conversation with anyone. Every man attacks you. There is no food. Your strength is failing. You have to hold shift, take detours, arm yourself, and move at night. The game shows you what happens if you go to the extreme. And after the first in-game day, after such a convincing demonstration, you have absolutely no desire to test that mechanic further. No desire to push your luck. Everything is crystal clear. I deliberately lowered my reputation exactly once across all my playthroughs. And I did it not out of curiosity. I carried each district's respect through the whole game for one single backup plan. If food ran out, I needed a door to open in my hour of need. And I would simply rob a house for a crust of bread. I didn't know if I'd need it, but I knew I couldn't afford to lose that option. Never before had a game forced me to do something like that. And I'm not talking about the theft itself. I'm talking about planning an escape route. Never before had a game forced me to preload a moral sacrifice into my strategy and keep it in my inventory next to a couple of lockpicks and needles. Another tricky mechanic in Pathologic is the deal. You can't die indefinitely. By the world's design, you're an actor, and your conditions are the same as everyone else's. Each death brings a permanent debuff. Saves coming won't fix it. Each death steals a piece of you, and nothing can undo it. Nothing. Or almost nothing. But how can this be? We used to be unkillable, rolling back actions, reloading from checkpoints, re-rolling the dice. Not here. It might sound funny, but Pathologic 2 wants you to be afraid of dying in a video game. To a ridiculous degree. Because with all the hardships and trials, the most important thing is that you're still playing, you're still on stage. And around your 7th or 8th death, you're made an offer. Want to cheat the game? Want the debuff lifted? Want a shortcut? You offered a deal, debuffs removed for a price. What price? Unknown, but something very, very precious. So, ready to sacrifice something valuable to ease your path? Ready to show who's boss? You agree not knowing the cost. Removing debuffs sounds tempting. The price is only revealed at the very finale. And that's a gut punch. Because if you agreed, you're not the clever trickster, not the smartest person in the room, not the one who bent the system. If you agreed, you weren't listening. You didn't understand. You're playing as Artemy, and Artemy is not afraid of death. He learns from it, overcomes it, even laughs at it. The Haruspex can even bluff death and say, bet I'm faster, but he is not afraid of it. Which means we can't be either. So if we take the deal, we've gone off script, and punishment follows. They take away your ending. More precisely, you are stripped of the right to choose your ending, to play the last day. By the 7th death, you're probably on the day 4 or 5. Sometime around then, you decided to cut a corner. On day 11, the game presents the bill. Everything you did after that deal, none of it matters. The safe is long behind, no negotiation. You tried to cheat the game, to slack off in the performance. The game claimed your finale. An extremely cruel lesson, but guess what? Now you'll definitely remember it. Just think about how bold and beyond the pale this is. While everyone else is making friendly games, so that the player, heaven forbid, doesn't quit halfway, collects all the Steam achievements and shares with friends, here they cancel your entire playthrough because you tried to simplify things and give you a medal just for surviving one day in the game. Just think about how radical this approach to the player is. No concessions. Either you play or you don't.
The plague bringer is here, walking around.
How many times during your Pathologic 2 playthrough did you walk to the fridge, grab a sandwich, and think, I wonder what I could trade this for in the games world? I hope I'm not the only one. Here's the thing. Exchange in this game pulls triple duty. It's a resource gathering mechanic, a reputation builder, and a way to learn about the city and its people all at once. Right at the start, we make our first exchange. After the tutorial fight, we offered a trade, hearts. Give away ours, worn out, sick, and receive a new one, healthy. In the early days, the game gives you a task. Trade with a woman, a man, and a child. Because without barter, you won't even make it to the midpoint. But with it, by day 6, you might have several doses of plague antidote sitting in your inventory. Exchange here is the foundation of everything. It's a pact, not just with the townsfolk, but with the game itself. You swap blood for herbs, fingernails for fast travel, marbles for needles, needles for bread. And your most reliable trading partners? 8-year-olds. Children, in general, hold a special place in Pathologic 2. And the game becomes drastically easier if you play with the kids. The first person who helps you after your arrival is a child in a dog mask. He hands you a tourniquet. He is also the only witness of the attack. Later on, children help you again and again. They invite you into their stash hunt game. They offer maps of infected districts. They drop hints about the vaccine. One of them literally steals a toolset for you. The adults of the Town-on-Gorkhon mostly ask and demand. The kids, who by all logic owe you nothing, are the ones who actually help. And here's what's ironic. No one is raising them. At some point, we get our father's list. 8 names, 7 children and 1 more, an ancient rune, something that must be saved because it's in danger. As we visit each child, asking about their lives, what they're up to, 3 things become clear. First, all 7 are incredibly important to the city, either from influential families or possessing extraordinary qualities. Second, no one can really explain what Isidore did with them or why he gathered them together. Third, not a single one of them has a mother. Some have fathers, but what are those fathers busy with? Chasing greatness? Running business? Anything but their own children, anything but raising them. And that's exactly what Isidore was doing. He was parenting them. Because he understood that children are the future of any society. The future of a city, especially one that's barely holding itself together. So what kind of city is this? It has no name, but it has 2 people. They live side by side, intertwined so tightly, they can no longer exist apart, and yet they slowly destroy each other. Take the kin. They lived here long before the first foundation was driven into the earth. They believe in the sanctity of the soil, the wholeness of all living things, the world as a single organism. You cannot dig, you cannot cut flesh, because everything is connected. But the step hasn't been pushed out by the city, it's stuck inside it. The herb brides dance in the local pub. The worms work as boatmen. The kin huddle in slums and clock in at the slaughterhouse. The people who once owned this land now live on its margins. And on the other side, the townsfolk, those who built the new city, laid the streets, raised the houses, brought architects and engineers. But the problem is, the city still lives by the steppes rules. The earth cannot be broken, and so there is no plumbing, so water must be brought from outside. There is a theater but no hospital, because only the chosen may cut open bodies. The city is connected to the outside world by a railroad, like an embryo by its umbilical cord. Cut it, and within days the town begins to die. The people who built the impossible, who literally defied the laws of physics, cannot save their own lives. The closer you look, the stronger the sensation that it shouldn't exist at all. Spleen, backbone, tanners, skinners. There aren't just labels, they're organs and functions. The main industry of the Town-on-Gorkhon is slaughterhouse, and at this core, the Town-on-Gorkhon is a vast organism. It's a ball. Look at the map. To the west, the Polyhedron, like a horn. There is the head, the district of great minds. There is the heart, the theater. Olgimsky estate sits right in the thick of it. The city is literally divided into organs, tasks, and functions. And here's another strange detail, another heart, where the slaughterhouse stand. Are those tusks? No, they're horns, because that's the other bull, the one that was here from the beginning, the king's sacred organism, the living body of the earth, that very heart which once sustained all life in this place. And they cornered it, defiled it, forced it to work for the new city. One bull built atop another, bigger, louder, more complex. They've dissected it into districts, split it into functions, turned it into a machine. Bull inside a bull, people inside a people. One slowly dies, the other cannot be born. And that's why the city feels so fragile. Everything here rests on sacrifice. The steppe sacrifices itself for the city, city to the steppe. The old for the new. Tradition for development, but nothing actually grows. The city doesn't grow, doesn't move forward, barely holds itself together and constantly demands fresh sacrifices just to survive one more day. And in the middle of all this, there we are, the meeting point of two worlds. Half kin, half townsfolk, Mayhu, a steppe half-breed who can cut flesh by the laws of both the steppe and the city. A surgeon who sees the lines, but doesn't fully understand where they lead. The one who can save, but only if he agrees to sacrifice something.
As a matter of fact, there's no matter nor fact.
I remember the first time I climbed the Polyhedron. For days we could only look at it from afar. It loomed over the city like something impossible, a colossal silhouette, visible from almost anywhere. But getting there never worked. No opportunity, no time, no strength. For nearly a week, the game kept bouncing us like a pinball. Can't go here, too dangerous there, won't make the clock this way. You count minutes, plot routes, hunt for food, water, medicine, try to save someone, investigate your father's death, just try to survive until morning. And finally, they open the way up. What awaits us up there? Another crucial conversation? A fresh plot twist? The director? A child? An answer? Just please not another quest. You climb higher and higher, stairs, landing, more stairs, another landing, and then a thought icon appears. The world is very beautiful indeed. What? Wait, seriously? We spent all that time, climbed to the top for this huge impossible structure for this? So the hero can state the obvious? Yes, exactly. And this is not mockery, not trolling, it's a breather. By now, the game has driven the hero and the player into the state where you live by your to-do list. No time to look around, no time to think about the world's beauty. You exist in a constant mode of I must make it, I must find, I must save, I must survive. And here, Pathologic 2 finally compels you to stop. Because if you strip away the mysticism, the plague, the strange rituals, all the metaphysical horror, the game becomes frighteningly similar to real life. Perhaps even more so than most life simulators. The main goal is stated constantly. Characters repeat it. Loading screens remind you. The game is honest with you from the first minute.
The only advice that matters: try not to die. Ever. Do you understand? Like, never ever. At all. Or it'll turn bad. Not just for you, but for all of us.
Your task is to survive. Not save the Udurk. That was your father's purpose. not defeat the block, that's the bachelor mission, not rescue the entire city, that's honestly optional. Just stay alive. The longer you play, the more you realize how much weight you piled on yourself. You're a doctor, you're a man who, a stab half-breed, Isidore's son, someone who sees the lines. The game distributes responsibility carefully and you eagerly grab it all. Save the children, heal the sick, keep districts from the plague. Help your friends complete every quest. The more you take on, the worse things get. And the worst part isn't even that. The worst part is that sometimes your help only makes things worse. Take Bad Grief, for example. A criminal trader, smuggler, who at some point becomes filled with knowledge from the Inquisition and decides to disband his gang. And he asks us, a doctor, a childhood friend who just arrived, why on earth should we do this? To get beaten up? To spend an hour on the road, several medicines along the way, and a dozen bullets upon arrival? And all that to get a shotgun, stroke our own ego, and possibly fail to reach someone who actually needs us? Because if we're honest, nobody suffers if the can continues to exist. Right now, it's just someone's personal crisis. Because in the world of Pathologic 2, there is another rule. Not every problem needs to be solved by you. Not every problem needs to be solved at all. The game doesn't punish you for weakness. It punishes you for trying to control everything at once. Artemy has 24 hours, and you have 24 hours, just like in real life. You have to set priorities and not take on everything. Some tasks simply not need to be solved, because they are not your tasks. You're not Superman, not The Witcher, not an RPG hero obligated to close every question mark on the map. You're an ordinary person in a crumbling town. Look after yourself first. Then, if you have any strength, time, and resources left, help others. And Pathologic 2 proves this, not just emotionally, but mechanically. You don't have to save anyone. Not one person from the list, not one of the leaders. I know, I've checked. Not the Udurk. You don't even have to find your father's killer. You can skip the vaccine. You can never enter the theater once. The game will still end. The only way not to finish the game is to die. That's it. And this is probably one of the most vital ideas of the entire game. From the very start, we were warned, just survive. But we begin complicating things ourselves. Not only in the game, everywhere. We pile everything onto our shoulders, demand the impossible from ourselves, then punish ourselves for failing short. And Pathologic 2, surprisingly, doesn't teach you to grit your teeth and power through. On the contrary, it teaches you to let go. To accept that you won't make it everywhere, won't save everyone, won't fix the entire world. That sometimes the best deed is to survive today and save something for tomorrow. Because if you burn yourself out today, there'll be no one left to save the rest tomorrow. So stop, look around. The world is very beautiful indeed.
Weird that you're still alive.
It's amazing how different Pathologic 2 feels depending on the localization. For example, the Plog's voice. In the English version, when you're infected, you hear this.
Foes. Why be foes? Why shun?
And in Russian version, this.
Обуздай меня, победи, вырви с корнем, тогда станешь Богом.
This is psalmody, Orthodox Church singing, words from the Gospel, delivered the way a priest reads them during a service. And it's terrifying if you know what's happening. First, the voice is female, not male. Not a priest's voice, the voice of the sickness itself. Second, it's literally a funeral service. While the English version tries to scare you with a mystical whisper, the Russian version is already preparing your soul to meet God. Pathologic 2 casually throws in biblical references throughout. Take the game's title, in English, Pathologic, dry, clinical, like a diagnosis. In Russian, mor, pestilence. It sounds like one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Look closer and you'll find the other 3 as well. And this frog invasion, doesn't that remind you of something? And the quest where you have to mark the doors of houses with a cross? Which makes the cathedral look so ironic. Huge, empty, without a single worshipper. Instead of parishioners, the Inquisition. Instead of faith, quarantine and terror. Because the city never embraced religion, but it eagerly embraced magic. And magic is everywhere here. It has 2 sources, the steppe and the Polyhedron. On one side, the ancient believe in a living earth, a giant bull beneath it, the world as a single organism. The earth here actually works miracles. It births strange creatures, grants herbs, and literally breathes somewhere under the city. On the other, the Polyhedron, an impossible structure forged by human hands, a technical marvel that also breaks the world's laws. It prolongs life, subjugates people, shelters children from the plague. The game's entire conflict is a collusion of 2 kinds of wonder, ancient and new, paganism and science. 5 years ago, when the Polyhedron was built, its foundation was driven deep into the ground, too deep. The spire literally pierced the artery of that creature beneath the city. They wounded the steppe, and the steppe is fighting back. The first time, the catastrophe was halted by quarantine. The Polyhedron protected the children inside and even gave them medicine, that strange schmauder. But now, the wound is too deep. And we have 2 options: destroy the Polyhedron or preserve it. But if you pull out the spire and tear down the Polyhedron, the organism underground bleeds out and dies. If you don't, the heart continues to suffer. Another codependency. 2 things that can exist without each other and can survive together. And so, at the end of day 11, if you intercepted the courier and didn't take the deal, the game finally poses the ultimate question: which bull to lead to the slaughterhouse? Because throughout the game, Pathologic 2 has been teaching us to sacrifice. Time for information, medicine for another person, your own health for your child, someone's life for a vaccine. And now the stakes become absolute. Because we're not choosing between 2 wonders. We're choosing between wonder and its absence, between the plague and the vaccine, the city and the steppe, the past or the future. If you leave everything as it is, the ancient creature survives, the Polyhedron remains standing, the children keep the impossible sanctuary, but the city continues to die. If you destroy the Polyhedron, the steppe creatures die with the magic, the creature underground perishes. Any choice is right so long as it's willed, but you cannot will your way out of sacrifice.
Can you see now where all of this was going?
You can finish the game in 4 ways. 2 of them aren't endings, they're consequences of failure. If you agree to remove debuffs through the deal with the fellow traveler, you've run out of the theater for trying to cheat. You handed off responsibility and lost the right to decide the play's outcome yourself. You deviated from the script. If you fail to intersect the courier, you're also expelled from the stage. The director literally tells you you couldn't handle the single mandatory task. And the worst part, he's right. Because Pathologic 2 almost never forced you to do anything specific. It allowed you to err, to sacrifice, to set priorities. But this moment, it's not a moral test. It's a test of whether you could carry your role to the end. In both cases, we've shown ourselves to be lousy actors. In both cases, we put on a train with a fellow traveler. And it's a beautiful detail. He promises new cities, new roads, new adventures, other games, but not this one. This performance we failed. Now, the real endings. If you leave the Polyhedron standing, the city is effectively doomed. The plague will resurge, because the source of pain hasn't gone anywhere. The steppe continues to live. the children stay inside their impossible world. All the major characters are bidding us farewell, and most likely, farewell to their own lives as well. This is the ending of wonder, beautiful, mystical, and absolutely hopeless. If you destroy the Polyhedron, you can create the vaccine and save the city. Magic disappears, the worms and herb brides live with it. But it will end the endless cycle of sacrifice. The city can finally become ordinary. Build hospitals, fix the water supply, stop living like an organism that devours itself. People obsessed with the Polyhedron will see the world without illusions. Some will accept it, some won't. And it seems like here it is, the good ending, the one where the city survives. Only one problem. The Udurk is dead. Oh, that damn Udurk. Because the Udurk is the main ghost of the entire game, the 8th name on our father's list, a body that contains the whole world. Something incredibly important and utterly elusive. What even is it? The city? The steppe? The Polyhedron? The plague? The creature underground? I was certain I couldn't understand Pathologic 2 until I solved the Udurk. At first, I thought it was the city itself. Makes sense. Children are its future. A city without a name, young, immature, like a child. But then, why does the Udurk die when you save the city? Alright, maybe it's the steppe, the king's single organism. But then, why put it on the same list as 7 children, most of whom have nothing to do with the steppe? Maybe the Udurk is the creature underground, that wounded heart? But then it would mean that Isidore knowingly placed its life above the life of hundreds of people. And that doesn't add up either. And you know what? I have no idea what the Udurk is. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Because I've spent the whole month trying to figure out its essence instead of making this essay. I got stuck in that cycle of hyper-control and it gave me nothing. And then I climbed the Polyhedron. Maybe I couldn't connect all the dots and find out what it is. Maybe there is no answer. Or not yet. Maybe the game itself doesn't know. Or maybe the whole point is not to know. Because if Pathologic 2 is trying to teach us anything, is that you can't be everywhere, know everything, fix everything. And if you wait for absolute understanding, you'll never do anything at all. So maybe the best thing is to make this video and ask you. I genuinely want to understand, and maybe you can help me. So, what do you think the Udurk is?
We're not puppets. A puppet is of value, at least to the puppeteer.
Pathologic 2 is an art house cinema in video game form, and probably one of the few cases where such a strange, uncomfortable, stubborn piece of work actually became truly popular. But the problem is, measuring this game by conventional standards is pointless, because Pathologic 2 refuses to be a normal game. It doesn't want to entertain you in the usual way, doesn't want to offer comfort, doesn't want to be convenient. That's why so many people quit in the first few hours. Not because the game is bad, but because they try to interact with it the way they used to interacting with other games. That's like trying to hammer a nail with a screwdriver. Technically possible, but why? You either change your approach or you keep suffering. The same goes for Pathologic 2. You can't play it on autopilot. Old gamer habits won't help. The habit of closing question marks, reloading to fix mistakes, feeling like the center of the universe, it won't work. On the contrary, the faster you let go all those habits, the faster the game begins to unfold. And the most astonishing thing is, it's honest with you from the very start. If you don't understand why the city is built this way, you can literally ask the architect, and he'll answer you not as a character, but as a level designer explaining the layout of the space. If you're wondering why it's so hard to play, you can go to the director and he'll tell you what it's for. At some point, the characters stop talking to Artemy altogether. They start talking to you. giving advice, pushing, warning, sometimes mocking, and sometimes unexpectedly candid. Take Mark Immortal, for instance. He straight up discusses the game with you, praises you for making it through. Then he tells you the performance failed anyway. Wrong archetype. The Haruspex wasn't afraid of death, but they needed someone who runs from it with all their might. The Bachelor, of course, that's a threat to the next game, but it is also meta commentary. If we didn't reach you, dear player, no worries, we'll try again. If there's one thing the game has in spades, it's honesty. Honesty with the player and with itself. Take this line from the finale. Who do you have to be to thrust a map marker under a free person's nose, saying, here's your goal. You're too lazy and stupid to figure it out on your own. They haven't been tormenting you all this time. They actually respect you, value you, love you. Thank you for participating.